episode of Unzip, Reboot and Leave URL podcast. Today we have someone who is disability inclusion consultant. She is expert in accessibility audits and solutioning and founder of Ashtavakra Accessibility Solutions. Please welcome Dr. Sangita Thakur. How are you, Sangita ji? How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. It's an honor to feature on your podcast and talk about issues that are close to my heart.
Thank you. She writes poem by herself, so we will start the podcast with one of her poems. Please, Sangita
Thank,
ji.
thank you so much. So I'm you can say a very random poet because I just jot down my thoughts once in a while and I post it. I'm not a dedicated poet as such. However, I'll just read something which I wrote. I think this was last year. So, a thousand thoughts churning in a restless ocean. The surface calm belies the inner commotion. I try to catch one reflected in the morning sun. It dashes past like the butterfly on the run. I chase the thought, hoping to catch it by the tail. There rises another, tantalizingly frail. I forgot why I was chasing the mortal creature and stepped back, looking at the ghostly features. That's part of my.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. So, without wasting any more time, straight we go to the questions. So, if you share little your story on disability, please share it with our audience because I know you are comfortable sharing with. So, please, Sangita ji.
Sure, sure. So, I have a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, uh, which causes progressive weakening of muscles. Besides this, I'm also deaf. Also, this was also a progressive issue, and I was neither born deaf nor was I born, you know, with
SMA.
this condition in a very advanced state. So I also have an elder brother. In fact, we have four siblings. So I have two elder sisters, and then my brother, and then I am the youngest in the family. So my brother also has SMA. Both of us have SMA. So his condition became obvious when he was around 1.5 years old. I think when he started walking, taking his first steps. So it was obvious that he had some kind of a limp. And then, you know, uh, the race for diagnosis and all that started with my parents trying to get him diagnosed. After him, I was born. I think I'm 2 years younger to him. But with me as a child, nothing was obvious. But by the time I think I was 5 or 7 years old, it started becoming obvious because I was uh, very slow in sports. I wasn't a good sport person, and I would walk very slowly, and I also used to fall sometimes. So initially, it was thought maybe because I mean, there are children, those who are not very sporty. I mean, they like to be involved in other things, and I had a natural aptitude for the drawing and all, which I used to spend a lot of time doing all that. So initially, I think my parents were also failed to realize that I may have the same condition as my brother. But by the time I was 7, my parents were not pretty sure that I may have the same condition as my brother. I'm talking about the 70s, and that time we did not have that the diagnosis of this disease was not that full-fledged, in fact, across the world. And in fact, there were research being conducted in SMA. So the first diagnosis that we had was at All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi. And that was when I was in class 4 and my brother was in class 6. So that was the time when we had a proper diagnosis done. But even they could not pinpoint it as SMA. So it was um, that time they used to call it myopathy, and they had different names for it and all. So the final diagnosis came when I was in class 10th and my brother had passed his 12th. We had both given our exams and we had gone to Bombay this time to get our diagnosis done. And finally, we were told that we have spinal muscular atrophy. It was kind of established, though off and on doctors had been saying taking the name of SMA, but obviously in absence of a proper diagnosis, we could not just claim that we had SMA. So finally, the diagnosis was done, and but then I went for another diagnosis before I got married because I wanted to be sure that I am not a carrier of this disease, this condition. So this happened in 2002, I think. I came to Delhi again, this time to Gangaram Hospital, because they had established a center for genetic medicines and all that. They were doing diagnosis, genetic diagnosis. So I got my diagnosis done. DNA was done, and it was established without any doubt that I have SMA, and I wasn't a carrier of SMA. So I went ahead and got married. So that is how, over the years, we finally got a very confirmed diagnosis of a condition. So, because we have this has been a progressive condition. It is not that you are born without sight, not that. So if you are born almost like any other child, and then, I mean, at least in our case, it was like that. Some cases are advanced, and children are born SMA. There are children those who are born with very advanced condition, and then in fact they are diagnosed. And the prognosis says that they may not survive beyond 2 years or something if the case is very, very critical. In our case, we were very fortunate because we weren't born with any, visible disabilities, but it was progressive. So with my brother, when he started walking, he had a limp which went on till he was, I think, in class 5, 6. Then he started needing a stick. Then by class 8, he stopped walking. His mobility was over. He could not walk anymore. With me, it was slower than my brother's progress. And I was walking, in fact, up till I got married in 2003. And uh, it was only after I had my baby and my condition suddenly aggravated, and I was in fact in bed for 2 years after my daughter was born, and I did a lot of physiotherapy, very rigorous physiotherapy and all, and then I started walking again and went back to office. However, by now I started needing a stick, and which with my condition advancing by 2010 or something, I would need wheelchair for long distances. And finally, 2014 onwards, I started needing wheelchair for mobility, even for short distances. And currently, for the last few years, I've been using a wheelchair at home. So I'm sitting on my wheelchair right now. So
And is
that
it
that
and your hearing, is it related to this, or that's a different story?
More, maybe it's not been established, but the thing is that the hearing loss is also related to nerves, and even spinal muscular atrophy is related to nerves. So there maybe the conditions are interrelated. So it's not been established, and I haven't gone, frankly, too much of a bother going through all this much of diagnosis, because I know, yeah, it's been I've been told by doctors. I got my hearing also tested in AIMS and various hospitals and all, and it's something which cannot be cured. So once you know that there is no cure for it, you don't feel like wasting your time in hospitals and needlessly going through number of tests and all for what? Because both the conditions are incurable, they are progressive. I know the prognosis. So my hearing disability also became apparent around 7, 8 years of age. Yeah, because people started realizing that when they call my name from the back, or when somebody said something to me from behind me, I could not understand. So what that meant was that I started lip reading, and in fact, it's very funny. So when I went for my diagnosis, to even the meteorologist was so zapped because when we were talking, I could hear and understand everything. But when he did the test, so it came out like I'm profoundly deaf. So he did my test thrice. They were very puzzled as to why the test says something else, but face to face, I'm so fine. So finally, the late diagnosis for hearing disability was because I'd become so adept at lip reading that nobody could realize that I'm actually deaf. Okay. So this was also progressive. So by the time I lost my hearing, I mean, majorly, I think I was in class seventh or eighth. And ninth, I started using one hearing aid because I was told left is totally useless now. So they gave me a hearing aid for my right ear. And hearing aids didn't help that much. We had analog hearing aids. Now we have digital hearing aids. For the past some years, I've been using digital. But then you won't believe it. It wasn't a doctor. It was the store, the guy who used to test me and my hearing aids in the store. So he told me that I'd suggest that you wear hearing aids in both your ears, and you'll see there's a tremendous difference in your hearing, and you won't believe it. It did. I started wearing hearing aids in both the ears, and my hearing improved much, much more because there was rudimentary hearing left in my left, so I had a more balanced hearing now. So I wear hearing aids in both my ears. I
Ah,
wear very powerful hearing aids. So for me, those fancy tiny ones are not out. In fact, for a long time, I preferred wearing that box hearing aid, that one which you pocket hearing aid,
yeah.
but because that was the most powerful, and that made my hearing enhance. So uh, that's the story of my hearing loss. So currently, I think I have very, very rudimentary hearing, maybe 10% or something is left. But because it was a progressive hearing loss, and by the time I was 4 years old, I was fluently reading Hindi and English both. So my vocabulary was huge, vast, real vast. I used to win all the spell bees in school. So because of this, natural affinity with language, I picked up the language before I went deaf. So now what happens is I have a hearing memory. I call it my hearing or heard memory. So when I talk to people, that memory helps me understand the conversations far better. And of course, the lip reading is there. And now we have technology like closed captioning and live transcription, which I am using currently on my phone. Uh, so that's it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So like I'd love to ask this question. So you have this disability and you kept on going and finished your not only master's up to PhD, then you worked. So
Yeah, I finished my PhD also. So as far as how I actually studied, um again, my I suppose my love for the language and my love for studying. I was a very, very bright student, uh, and I think they say that people with spinal muscular atrophy have very high IQs in most cases. So my brother and I both have very high IQs. So that I suppose helped us, overcome the challenges of education. Specifically in my case, because being deaf, I could not understand my teachers. See, now when I take off my hearing aids, so there's I mean, unless it's a bomb blast, which will be like muffled for me, I can't hear anything. But as a child, I could hear. Now, even on hearing aid, there's a lot of noise everywhere and ambient noises around there. But when I wasn't wearing hearing aids as a child, I could hear my teacher, but my problem was clarity. I could not make out what is being said unless I was really close to that person. So entire school life and college, I always sat in the front bench. I preferred to sit right up in front, facing the teacher, so that I could catch at least parts of what was being said. So right from childhood, I was given to self-studies. I finished my books before the class started. So, so like when the teachers talked in class and gave lectures, I already knew what she's teaching me. So I didn't need that much of intervention from my teacher. I did self-studies and I was pretty good at it. So I think that saved me. However, when I went to high school and in class 9th and 10th, when it came to maths and the science subjects, then I started facing problems because these are subjects you require somebody to explain the concept to you. And for me, I was missing out all these explanations. So it was becoming very difficult for me. And in fact, I topped right from kindergarten to class 8. I was the topper, always top without fail. Every year I topped my class. But then ninth, I started struggling a bit. Uh, and since I was a very ambitious child, very competitive by nature, I think always wanting to be the best, the most excellent. So not being the best, not getting the highest marks started affecting me. And it was a struggle I had because by that time, as I told you earlier, my hearing disability was very advanced. So all this struggle, inner struggle, trying to understand my own, limitations, they imposed a lot of pressure on me, and I had two nervous breakdowns in class 9th and 10th. But I didn't do badly in class 10th. I was in the top 10, not the top, but top 10. Then I switched school in up because this school was only up till 10th. So for plus two, I went to another school, and this school, because I took up humanities, and again, self-studies could help me in humanities. So I again started doing extremely well. And in fact, I was among the top, I mean, uh, I did extremely well, really well. I was also secretary of the student council. That was a dream which was not fulfilled in my last school because my last school, uh, they had this system of, uh, it wasn't an open election and nominations were done by the teacher. So because of my both my advancing disabilities, despite all my extracurricular and curricular activities and achievements, I wasn't nominated for either, captaincy or for becoming the head girl, and all these, caused a lot of trauma to me, which resulted in my breakdowns. So in this school, I fulfilled my dream of becoming, uh, heading the student council, and I was a secretary, and I did really well, my academics also. And then I came down to Lady Shram College, Delhi. My parents were based in Patna, that is Bihar. So
Yes.
my school education was done there. But for my higher studies, my parents decided to send me out to Delhi. And I got admission in Lady Shram College. I was in the first list. My name was second or third. So that was cutoff used to be very high. So
Mm.
I came here and I studied in this college. Then from there, you want me to go into the college part also?
Yeah,
So
love to
from there,
hear it.
after I
Because
completed,
because what I'm hearing is you have all these disabilities, but you went through in typical Indian mainstream education where there is no help
yes,
as such.
absolutely, absolutely. Because my parents were very progressive and they did not believe in this concept of special education. They felt that putting our children into the mainstream schools would make them capable of, handling all the challenges that come their way. Because ultimately, you have to stay in society. You are not going to be segregated in a community. We are not going to be living in a community. We have to live in the mainstream society. So that was the reason. And also, I think that time, when I was a student, children with hearing disabilities, until unless they were, I think, born or what we call oral deaf, I think most of the children must have studied in mainstream schools. I don't know, because in my school I was the only child with hearing disability, I think, or with double disabilities, multiple disabilities, whatever. So I've studied right from childhood. I've completed my entire education. My academic journey has been in mainstream schools and colleges. Completed my graduation from Leadership Ram College. You must be aware it's one of the premier
Yep.
institutions.
Yes.
Then from there, I went to Indian Institute of Mass Communication. That's a funny story because while graduating, I wasn't very clear what I want to do. My dad was insisting I should go into academics because he could foresee that my hearing disability may pose obstacles in what I was, interested in. I wanted to get into theater, or I wanted to get into law. Now, these two fields are both, based on how your hearing capability, because unless you hear, you can't do theater, and unless you hear, you can't argue in courts. So, given the fact that I was a debater and always won prizes in debate, state level and all, and also in elocutions and all, I was a theater actor in school, won all the best actress awards and all that. So I had this natural inclination for going into, performing art. Even if you look at law, it's somewhere where you're performing on a stage. So that always attracted me, being in front of an audience and, performing. In fact, I always also toyed with the idea of finally going into politics because I love to give speeches. So all the childhood, dreams were centered around uh, these jobs, or you can say professions, where you'd be, at the center stage with an audience around you. So, like my friend, my childhood friend, father had also shifted out to Delhi. He was my local guardian, and she was filling up her forms for JNU and Dr. Jawaharlal Nehru University and Indian Institute of Mass Communication. All right. So we're very close friends. And I mean, I was always the naughty one, and she was the calm influence in my life. So she was filling up the forms, and then she filled up my form. And I cleared JNU as well as we had to give written tests. So in IMC, there was also an interview. So I cleared both these places. Um, and I thought I could do both together. However, my father was insisting I should go into academics. JNU is a great place to study. And but my brother was advised my dad that look, this is a very, very, very premier institute with had just 25 seats in each course. And out of that, you had reservation 30%. So that meant that very few seats were left for general category students. My brother and I have never used any disability quota for anything. We didn't believe in that because we had been given the best possible, opportunities. So we always thought that it's better for people, those who haven't been given these opportunities, to use the quota. So I had not applied in any quota anywhere. I used to apply as a general category candidate. So since I was selected and everything, so my brother uh, explained to my dad that let her do this, and then she can always complete her academics after IMC. So I went to IMC. I could not keep up with JNU because JNU had a semester system. So that and 75% attendance. So I went to IMC. I dropped out of JNU, and I did completed my course. And after that, I was in fact the first person to get a job while before even the convocation was done. So uh, unfortunately, I could not take up that job because I had an accident while coming down from the interview. So ironical. So this office was located on the second floor in GK2. That is Greater
Kailash.
Greater Kailash 2. There's an M Block market, and it was on the second floor. It had a spiral staircase. So while coming down, I slipped and fell. I had a major uh, fracture and had to go back home. They said they'll hold my job for me. But after 4 5 months, it was almost 6 months, and I returned to Delhi. But then I was too uncomfortable going back to the same place. And I started looking for other opportunities. And that was the time that I was made to realize that I am a person with disabilities. Because the job opportunities were there, but not for me.
Mm.
They weren't for me. Now, at that time, most of the first interviews were conducted on phones. By now, my hearing was so bad that I could not make out what's being said on the phone. So I used to ask my elder sister, who had also shifted out to Delhi with her husband. So I told her, she used to impersonate me and she would hear the questions and quickly write it down. And I used to say the answers. That way we were managing. I got a job finally, but not what I wanted. And then when I started working, my my locomotor disabilities became an impediment in functioning in Delhi because I just started out. I didn't have a car and all that, so I would have had to take the bus, DTC, or autos. I had to desperately look for a low floor auto. No buses were low floor. I couldn't climb anymore. I was walking, but climbing a higher level without any support, it was impossible for me. So I'd be stranded outside my office in CP area, and by the time I reached home, it would be 10. So my family was getting worried. My dad back home was very worried. My because Delhi safety concerns are there for women. So finally, my father requested me that you come back home and and then we can explore what you can do. So I returned home. So I was broken hearted, totally in a bad state of mind because there was a feeling of having failed. That time I could not process this, that the failure is not on my part. The failure is on part of society. And the failure is on part of the environment, which is not built for a person like me, that despite qualifications and education and the best possible results one could have in school, college, I am not getting a job. I am not able to and when I get a job, whatever it is, I'm compromising. But even that compromise is not successful because I cannot stay in a world which is not meant for me. I need people, I need help, I need car, I need a driver, and I'm not earning. Earning a stipend that time. How can I afford all this? So when I returned home, I was in a very bad state of mind, heartbroken, and totally in a bad space. So then I was looking for alternatives, and my brother had by then. My brother's story is is different from mine. However, his story is no less, I suppose, no less full of struggles and challenges. So I'll have to give you a bit about him here. So when my brother also had come down to Delhi for his higher studies after completing +2 from his school in Patna. And he had done very well too. So he got admission in SRCC, that is Shriram College of Commerce, the top commerce college. Um, However, by that time, I told you by 14, he had stopped walking. So when he came here for admissions with my dad, uh, the principal said he had got admission. But the principal in the interview, he told my father that, look, uh, I'll try to give admission to one of his friends also to keep him company. However, looking at his condition and his needs, as a father, to you as a father too, I would suggest that you don't leave him here because it will be very difficult for him to manage in the hostel. So my brother dropped out of SRCC and he started doing distance from Delhi University. But when he came down for his first year exam, uh, the exam center was in one end of West Delhi or someplace, and his exam room was on the 6th floor. Can you imagine a boy who couldn't walk managing that entire exam? How he went up, came down, it was terrible. So then he took a transfer from second year. He returned, he took a transfer to Patna University because my parents were there and he started studying there. But when he returned, my brother is actually much more, he's very strong and he's my role model, you can say that. So when he returned, he knew that these, traditional and typical career choices, which he was looking at. My father was also a corporate lawyer, and he was not. He hadn't given his CA exam, but he used to teach all CAs because he was very well known. His uh, his proficiency in this field, finance and law, was very well known. He was very well established. So my brother had been thinking of doing CS and CA. However, he realized that these traditional fields would they'll be difficult for him. So when he returned home, what he did was he launched a company of his own and he started his business. With 800 rupees, he borrowed from my second sister who had just started working. And he built his business today. Like he shifted his entire business to Delhi in 2005, and he has his office in Okla. So he's running his own business. He doesn't walk, he can't lift his hands, he can't even sit without support. He can use just 2 fingers, but he runs a business. And he has 50 people working under him. So I'm giving you this backstory because when I was totally broken, and one day I was talking to my father. I just put up a post about this on LinkedIn. So my dad is a very he's no more. My dad, I lost him in 2018. So he was he's a very soft-hearted person. So, and I was his favorite child because I'm the youngest in the family, daddy's daughter. So, uh, like I was literally broken, and I was crying my heart off, and he was also crying with me. And then my brother, we had uh, we had a slow stool for him with wheels to move around in the house, designed by himself. He used to sit on it with his legs in lotus position, and he used to. That time his hands were working, so he could move the wheels like a wheelchair. Very low floor stool. So he rolls himself in, and he gives me a real hot talk, very cruel. And he tells me that stop valuing in self-pity. Done. If you can't work in Delhi, it doesn't mean that your life has come to an end. You have the best possible education, you have a supportive family, you have everything going for you. Look around you. There are people, those who are in such a worse state than you. There are people with disabilities who haven't been able to get education. They can't afford medicine. They can't afford to even live a decent life. What are you crying for? So that was a hard talk, which was much needed. And that set me forth. And then my story changed. And I got a job in Copcom. I did very well after that. Went to Hindustan Times, stayed there for 11 years. And then after that, I shifted out to Delhi. And I've been here since 2006, 7. So I worked across I'm a communications professional background, 25 plus 30 years, I think I've done this. So from Hindustan, I did first started in Corpcom with the best possible opportunity in Patna. It was a company which was undergoing an expansion and modernization project funded by the World Bank. And I was working as the executive assistant to the managing director. So I had a lot of learning space, and that my boss he was also um you can say my mentor, because he helped me a lot in getting back that confidence which I had suddenly lost after being such a confident child and a youth, which I had lost when I started facing problems and getting jobs. I got everything back under him because uh, I faced challenges with other people in office. So one day he told me that the problem is not with you. The problem is with the people, those who can't see your capabilities. Your disabilities are physical, obvious. Their disabilities are mental.
Wow.
That's what he told me. And when I shifted out of that job in fact, he helped me get my first audience in Hindustan Times through his contact, because he was retiring and he thought that it would be better for me to move out of the organization because of the circumstances. I'd have to travel and I mean, I would have had to join the chairman's office, and it would require a lot of traveling across the globe. I was a very young woman. So my boss, he suggested that I move out, and because he used to love the way I write, I had already started contributing to Times of India. He made me rewrite the entire company manual, and he told me that given the fact that I write so well, I should capitalize on that. So he sent me to his friend, who was the CEO of Hindustan Times, Patna. The entire Hindustan Times is controlled by Delhi. Editorial is totally Delhi. So then this guy sends me to the resident editor, and the resident editor sends me to Delhi for an exam. I qualified in the exam, and within 1 week, I was absorbed in Hindustan Times, and that is how I came to work there. Then I had 10 years of extremely fulfilling, professional time in Hindustan Times. Broke a lot of stories, managed the entire magazine section, and broke a lot of stereotypes also coming down from Delhi and studying in top colleges, coming back to a place which was very traditional, just like it isn't a metro, it was a small town. So the women, those who worked there, would be put in morning shift, and here I was pushing to work with the men in evening shift, night shift. So I was the first woman to be allowed to work in that shift. And so I wasn't satisfied with being, a woman in a very patriarchal place, because I knew I'm more capable than these guys around me, and they perceived me as a challenge. So I went through a lot of challenging times also, but I always got the support of my bosses. I worked under three resident editors, and all the three, they supported me, because I don't know, because they when we had teams visiting from Delhi, they would say that if this girl was in Delhi, she would be right at the top in your organization. I mean, they my my capabilities were recognized by these people, and they pushed me to take, I mean, because I pushed, so they allowed me and they supported me and, put me in charge. Though there was a lot of bad blood and, heartburns and office, it was all men, men, men wanting to do everything. So because of all this support that I got, maybe because they recognized my talent and drive, I succeeded and I did very well in this phase of my life. So that's, I think, a long, long, long story. I should end, I think, here.
Wow, nice. Wow, very inspiring. Really, really very inspiring, Sangita ji. So all this struggle, all these experiences, and all these understanding, kind of the juice behind Ashtavakra Accessibility Solutions, right?
Uh, yes, you can say that. The thing is, I came to Delhi, as I told you, in 2006-7, and I worked in as a director in a public relations company. Then I went and worked with the government of Delhi on a very special project called Mission Convergence, where I functioned as the communications head. Uh, and the presentation which I made, on the basis of that, we won the Gold CAPAM Award. So after that, I came into a space which is business media, where I stayed for 12 years. So it was totally commercial space. I led as managing editor and group editor. And these are where we had niche communities. So I was leading the finance community, and I was also working with the digital community, that is CIOs and CFOs at top level, C-suite. So, and also worked on client, products. Like for Microsoft, I was heading their magazine called Perspective. Uh, and with Amway, there was a consumer magazine called Aware Consumer. So my job entailed, pitching clients, bringing in clients, then, conceptualizing a product from the concept stage to the post-production stage. So I functioned as the group editor, managing editor, looking after all this. That was the client side of it. And then we had in-house community-based magazines. So I was managing editor of CFO India. And we also worked as managing editor of India Brand Equity Foundation magazine called India Now. India Brand Equity Foundation is a body of Commerce Ministry department. So I was working with a lot of government-backed stuff also. So during this period, I wasn't, except when I worked with the government of Delhi on the project, which was for urban poverty alleviation. I wasn't actually working in the development sector. So my all the work that I did in the development and disability sector was when I worked with Hindustan Times for 10 plus 1 years. So before lockdown in 2019, I had a brain hemorrhage. And while I was recovering from it, and I just started going to office, the lockdowns happened. So my daughter, she suggested that, Mom, why don't you start writing blogging on Instagram? And she made a page, and to keep my own motivation up, because I was recovering and all, and put on a lot of weight. I still am currently also a little overweight. So, like, so, so what happened was, every day I love saris. I've been wearing saris as work wear for the past 22 years now, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, saris. So I would wear a sari even during lockdown. And my daughter would click a picture of me, and I'd post that picture and I write about my experiences as a person with disability or something about disability. You'll find those posts. I mean, still there. And within a few months, I had about 17.5K followers just reading my post and my looking at my stories. But that made me realize that since the time I was born, and since, in fact, even if I take my leaving Hindustan Times in 2005-6 as the point. There had not been much, progress in the understanding and awareness of people regarding disabilities. And of course, there had been no progress in how accessible or inaccessible we are. So it started working in my brain. Somewhere I started getting that itch that I should do more. I should do more. If just writing, blogging can make people want to know more about disabilities, about people with disabilities, then maybe if I can bring in some kind of more concrete work in this space, then my lived experience and my experience in this of 30 years of experience in the corporate sector would probably help, you know, me take the message of inclusion to a bigger audience. So after the lockdowns, I returned to office, but by this time I was now totally sort of, I mean, not that involved in the work which I was doing. I had already covered the entire spectrum, all the verticals of communication, PR, advertising, corp com, business media, mainstream media. So magazines, everything, newsletters, social media. I had done everything that was there. So the challenges were now more like routine for me, and I like challenges. I love challenges. So I kept on telling my husband, I don't want to work anymore. I want to do something different. I want to quit. And finally, I quit in 2023. I quit to come to actually also complete my academic journey. So from 2023 to 24, um, I was working on my own concept of what I want to do in the disability space and writing my thesis. And I took a break from social media and everything. Of course, all the follower count went down, but doesn't matter. After I completed my PhD, but while I was doing this thesis and working in my own space as to what I want to do next, so I was approached by this company which is based in Budapest, and they are into accessibility audits and certification. So they asked me if I would like to work with them in India, and asked me to come back to them after I had completed my studies. So I went back to them in 2024. Beginning of 2024. And then I launched my company, and I'm a partner with them in India. And I did my exams for accessibility audit. So I'm an accredited partner and I'm an auditor for physical accessibility. Because that is their specialization. For digital, I work with consultants who are in the space to provide digital accessibility to companies. As you can see, I'm a very new company. I'm trying to establish myself. I'm already working with a few clients because I feel, I mean, my approach to disability and inclusion is 360 degrees. What I mean is that it's not just physical, it's not just attitudinal, or it's not just communication. The barriers are, you know, all across. You have attitudinal, you have physical barriers, and you also have communications barriers. So if you actually want to be inclusive as an organization, you need to tackle all these barriers. So I provide 360-degree solutions. So for physical accessibility, I'll do the audit. I'll also provide the solutions to make your place accessible and a certificate once you're done. And then for digital accessibility, I provide you, audit, that is testing, and then the certification. We also give you the recommendations to make your digital assets accessible. And for attitudinal and communications, attitudinal, we provide workshops, we provide seminars, talks and capacity building. And for communications, I provide you all the communications, strategic communications expertise that I have gained in 30 years to communicate properly with your internal and external stakeholders, and also establish yourself as a disability champion. So that's the approach that I have with my company, Ashtavakra. And as you asked, yes, my company is based, I mean, what I provide as solutions, they are all based on my lived experience and the the professional experience which I have gained through, the exams, the certification that I've done, and I'm also going to do another exam certification for certification. So I kind of, as a researcher, I feel that you need to have a, a very structured approach to any problem you're trying to solve. And a structured approach cannot only be based on your lived experience, it also needs to have a professional backing. So for physical, I have my own professional qualification, and for digital, I have a team which provides it. For communications, I have my qualification, my experience to give you strategic communications. And attitudinal, I'm developing, and I've developed various workshop modules to provide that.
Wow. 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 Very nice. Very nice. So on disability, uh, there are different types of disability, right? Physical disability, visual, hearing, speech, dyslexic. So you are approaching um, all of these, or more into physical and incorporates? Because the reason I'm asking it is because in these cases there are a lot of money needs to be spent, and high-end corporates probably in a position to do that in India.
Yes, yes. So see, as far as accessibility is concerned, it covers 8 groups, basically. It's like mobility impaired, wheelchair users, maybe those with crutches or sticks. Okay. Then you have deaf and hard of hearing. There are 2 groups. Their needs are different. You have blind and you have visually impaired. Again, 2 groups with different needs. Then you have cognitive disabilities, and we also take into account elderly, women with strollers, I mean, pregnant women also, and the families, those who have strollers, baby strollers, and people, those who are using service dogs. So, accessibility is required for all these groups. In India, maybe the dog part is not that developed, but if you look at the demographics of India, so currently we have 10.5% of elderly population. Going forward, India is going to be in the same place where Japan is currently. We are aging faster, and there's a like 20 by 2050, I think we're going to have double the population or something. I mean, I'm not very sure of the statistics currently. However, given the fact that Indians are now living longer, they will need to also work longer. They will need to go out in public spaces longer. So we cannot leave them out of our consideration as a group needing accessibility, because when you grow older, you lose your hearing, you lose your eyesight, your mobility becomes a problem. So you almost become like a person with disability, right? So accessibility needs to include the elderly in any solutions that you're providing. So we consider all these groups for physical as well, for physical accessibility. And for digital accessibility also, you have groups like those with visual and hearing. They have special needs. And even those with cognitive disabilities have special needs, like, for example, and the brightness of the screen and all that needs to be adjusted and all. So, and the signage, etc., has to be appropriate. So yes, like currently in India, like I've been approached by some people don't want all accessibility for all these groups in one go. They're looking at staggered implementation. For example, they are looking to hire people, the blind people. So they want accessibility to be done only for uh, the blind. So that kind of staggered approach, phase-wise approach is also being adopted by some. However, the companies, those who like Fortune 500 and 1000, their websites you'll find are accessible across group, because especially for digital accessibility, it's better to go in one go, because we cannot give certification for just that you are only accessible to the blind, or you're only accessible to the deaf. It needs to be done in one go. You need to make your entire digital assets accessible. PDFs, your videos, your website, your apps, everything has to be accessible. So we have to look at all the different groups needing accessibility when we are trying to implement accessibility in an organization or in any built environment or digital environment. So that's it.
Right. Okay. So very nice. We are almost end of our podcast here. So please give our audience a really inspiring pep talk for the people who are living with disability, because looking at you, disability is nothing. It's just another thing in your life.
So, firstly, see, there's something called inspiration porn in context of people with disabilities. So I would rather say that let's not look at people with disabilities as those who inspire you, because the struggles that we have in our day-to-day lives is not something to inspire people. It is because we don't have an alternative, because the world has not been built for us. So we struggle to achieve what you would achieve just, in a more simpler fashion. But for us, everything becomes a struggle. So our struggles should not be romanticized. They should be looked at from the point of view of, you know, making you think, what can I do as an individual to make life easier for the person whom I know who has a disability? How should I treat them? How should I look at them? What should be my contribution to society in making our world more, disabled friendly and inclusive? So, my request to your audience would be not to look at us for inspiration, but to look at us as just people like you who have to struggle in your world, because this world wasn't made for us.
On that, as you know, if you want to live your life in your own terms, this is the right place. This is URL podcast. So on that, we should end our podcast here. Thank you, Sangita ji. Thank you for your time. And we will do another one down the line with typically on your business part of it.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.